You're looking for a projector that actually works day to day, doesn't feel like a lab demo, and gives you the bang for the bucks you're spending, right? You've probably heard the hype about laser light sources and bright lumens, but you're also worried about spending money on something that looks great on paper and then ends up being a headache in a typical office or home theater setup. That hesitation is real, especially when the market is flooded with units that promise 4K, HDR, and endless connectivity, yet most of us just need a reliable picture that stays sharp, stays on, and stays affordable to run. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's unpack the Sony VPL PHZ51 and see whether it lives up to those practical expectations. First off, the headline numbers: 5,300 lumens and a WUXGA 19201200, native resolution powered by a laser light source. Those specs sound impressive, and they are for the right reasons. The laser engine means you won't be swapping bulbs every few years, and the brightness level is high enough to overcome moderate ambient light, something most of us can't avoid in a conference room or a living room with a few lamps on. But the real question is how those numbers translate when you actually hook the thing up to a laptop, a streaming stick, or a Blu-ray player. In a typical boardroom, the PHZ51 can be mounted on the ceiling or placed on a cart about 3 meters away from a 100-inch screen. At that distance, the 5,300 lumens give you a crisp, vivid image even when the blinds are only partially closed. The laser light source delivers a consistent color gamut, so you won't notice the washout that sometimes shows up with older lamp-based units after a few hours of use. That consistency is a huge practical win if you run back-to-back presentations all day. There's no lamp dimming curve to worry about, and the color stays steady from the first slide to the last. Now, let's talk about the resolution. WUXGA sits just a notch above standard 1080p, giving you a little extra vertical detail. In a business setting, that extra line of pixels can make spreadsheets look cleaner and make fine print documents easier to read from a distance. For home theater, however, you're not getting true 4K, so if you're a hardcore cinephile with a 4K source, the jump to 8K or 4K projectors might feel more satisfying. Still, for most streaming services and Blu-ray movies that still deliver 1080p or 2K, the difference is subtle enough that you won't be missing it. What about the user experience? Sony's interface is fairly straightforward. There's a simple remote with a few dedicated buttons for picture mode, source selection, and a quick power on/off. The projector boots up in roughly 10 seconds, which is quick enough for impromptu meetings. The laser source also means you hear almost no fan noise once it's up to temperature, a nice perk if you're using it for a quiet lecture or a movie night. On the downside, the PHZ51 doesn't have a built-in speaker, so you'll need an external audio solution for anything beyond a basic voiceover. That's pretty common for this class of projector, but it's worth noting if you're hoping for an all-in-one package. Connectivity is where Sony tries to keep things simple. You get 2 HDMI 2.0 ports, a US Type-C for video, and a VGA input for legacy laptops. The HDMI ports support HDCP 2.2, so you can pull a 4K-capable stream and downsample it to WUXGA without a hiccup. There's also a LAN port for network control, which is handy if you want to integrate the projector into a larger AV system. One practical limitation is the lack of wireless mirroring. You'll need a dongle or a streaming stick if you want to cast from a phone or tablet. In a typical office, that's not a deal breaker, but for a home setup where you might want to toss a video from your phone to the screen, it adds a small extra cost. Let's talk about the hidden trade-offs. The laser light source, while low maintenance, does have a finite lifespan measured in tens of thousands of hours. Sony rates it for about 20,000 hours, which translates to roughly 10 years of daily 2-hour use. That's excellent on paper, but the projector's internal cooling system does run a little hotter than a lamp-based unit, which can affect placement. You'll need enough clearance around the back and sides for airflow. Cramming it into a tight shelf could lead to overheating warnings. Also, the laser's color balance is calibrated at the factory for a neutral picture, but many users prefer a warmer tone for movies. Adjusting that requires diving into the picture settings menu, which isn't the most intuitive layout if you're not used to Sony's color wheels. Who should buy this? If you're a small to medium business that needs a dependable presentation engine, the PHZ51 hits a sweet spot. It offers the low-maintenance benefit of a laser source, enough brightness to handle rooms with ambient light.